Good morning. I'm Chief Dave Todd with the Fargo Police Department. State's Attorney Birch Burdick is joining us this morning, and our Lieutenant of the Criminal Investigations Division, Lieutenant Jason Nelson, is also going to join me for this press conference. After extensive search efforts by law enforcement and by volunteers, the body of Savannah Marie Graywind was found yesterday at approximately 5:44 p.m. Recreational kayakers on the Red River found what appeared to be a body-sized object, heavily wrapped in plastic and duct tape, stuck against a tree, sticking out in the middle of the river. The kayakers immediately notified law enforcement, who responded to the scene. At the same time, searchers checking on an abandoned farmstead just south of where the body was found on 90th Avenue in Clay County found suspicious items indicating what may be a crime scene. The Clay County Sheriff's Department, along with the Fargo Police Department, responded to the scene. The Clay County Sheriff's Department is the department of jurisdiction for this possible crime scene. They have secured this scene and are currently working with the BCA to thoroughly process that area to determine if indeed it is a crime scene. The body-sized object wrapped in plastic and duct tape was retrieved from the river at approximately 8:20 p.m. and a very preliminary examination at 9:30 p.m. by Fargo detectives confirmed it was the body of Savannah Marie Graywind. Savannah Marie Graywind's body has been sent to the medical examiner in Ramsey County by the Clay County Sheriff's Department for an autopsy and forensic examination. Sheriff Berquist is out at the scene and was going to try to make it here for this press conference, and if he does make it, I'll let him speak more to the efforts of the Sheriff's Department and the BCA. William Henry Hone and Brooke Lynn Cruz will appear this afternoon to be arraigned on formal charges. I've asked Cass County State's Attorney Birch Burdick to speak to that matter. Birch?
Thank you, Chief. Good morning. As the Chief indicated, both Cruz and Hain will appear today at our first appearances. That will be at 2 o'clock over in the District Court for Cass County on 9th Street. At that time, I anticipate they will be appearing on the following three charges, which would apply for each of them. Conspiracy to commit murder, conspiracy to commit kidnapping, and false information. The conspiracy to commit murder is a Class AA felony, which means it's punishable by up to life imprisonment without parole. The conspiracy to commit kidnapping is an A felony, punishable by up to 20 years and a sizable fine. And the false information is a Class A misdemeanor, punishable by up to 360 days and a fine. At the time that they make their appearance at 2 o'clock today, they will be informed of their charges. They will be appointed an attorney if they are eligible for that. Bail will be set, and that's about, and then further, a schedule for further hearings will be set. They will not be asked to enter a plea on those charges at that time. The charges that I just outlined for you are the ones I anticipate. They have not yet been formally filed with the court. When they are formally filed with the court, we will send out a press release and enclose a copy of the charges to all of the media and who are on our normal facts, as well as others who have approached me. Any questions that you've got at this time on that? Okay, thank you.
I'd like to thank Lieutenant Jason Nelson and our teams of detectives and officers for their efforts around the clock thus far. We still have a lot of investigating to do to put the puzzle pieces together in this case. Thank you to the volunteers who gave of their time and effort trying to find Savannah. And our sincere condolences, thoughts, and prayers go out to the Graywind family as they suffer through this horrible loss. As the chief, I speak on behalf of the men and women of the Fargo Police Department, and I'll tell you that our hearts are heavy as we mourn the loss of this young lady. As law enforcement, through our investigative efforts, we will continue to pursue justice for Savannah. Savannah was the victim of a cruel and vicious act of depravity. Lieutenant Jason Nelson is here to answer questions regarding the investigation.
Good morning. Before we start answering any questions, I'd like to thank my staff, all the other jurisdictions that have helped us both locally and federally and across state lines, and also several fire departments were also involved with preliminary searches and the recovery yesterday. So thank you to everyone that helped in this. We would not be here today if we wouldn't have had all that cooperation. I'll be very limited in what I can answer, but I am willing to take some questions.
Jason, what brought you to the farmstead that was being searched simultaneously?
The question was what brought us to the farmstead that may be a crime scene. That area was being searched by citizens after we had asked for help. We had no indication through the investigation that that may be a crime scene, but after searchers were there, they called with some suspicious items, and that's what prompted Clay County to respond to that area.
Was that farm occupied at the time you found the suspicious items?
The question is if the farm was occupied at that time. No, it appears to be abandoned.
What were the suspicious items?
The question was what were the suspicious items? I'm not going to get into that. Thank you.
Were the kayakers part of the search at that time?
I believe the question was the kayakers' involvement, is whether they were part of the search party or out there recreationally. At this point, it sounds like they were there recreationally.
Do you have any idea, again, you may not be able to answer this, potentially
The question is if this area was the scene of Savannah's death. I can't answer that at this time. Currently, BCA and Clay County and Fargo PD are working together to try to determine that.
the crime of fetal abduction or was it a natural birth?
The question was this a natural birth or fetal abduction? Again, I can't get into that because of the investigation.
Lieutenant Nelson, do you believe there are any other suspects, or are you looking for any other people that might be involved here?
Question was, do we believe there's any other suspects? At this point, we have no indication that there's any other suspects involved in this crime. Question is whether or not this is a federal investigation. I can tell you that our partners with different federal agencies have been assisting us since the beginning of this. Whether or not it goes into a federal court, that will be determined by the U.S. Attorney and Cass County State's Attorney Birch Burdick. There's several factors that come into that.
You have crime scenes in 2 states. Is there a question of jurisdiction? Where the cases are held?
I'll refer that to Birch if.
Would you repeat the question?
If there are crime scenes in 2 states, question of jurisdiction, which state is it?
The question was if there are crime scenes in 2 states, to which jurisdiction would the case go? Without having all of the details right now, that's sort of a premature, it's a good question, but it's sort of premature to answer it. As Detective Nelson has indicated, we have also been in communication with prosecutors both in Clay County and the U.S. Attorney's Office. They're all well aware of what the situation of the case is right now. We believe that the jurisdiction is appropriately in Cass County District Court at this time. If there is other information which comes to light that gives us an opportunity to think about this in a different way, then we will look at that and assess what may be appropriate when we have that information and under what circumstances.
Would that lead to the prospect of, or is it a sort of Cass County one, or
The question was, did my prior comments imply, I think it was, did my prior comments imply that the murder occurred in Cass County? What I'm telling you is we have charged it as a conspiracy to commit murder. A conspiracy requires an agreement with one or others to do things which are otherwise unlawful, and somebody takes an overt act in furtherance of that conspiracy. That's how it's charged right now. That's the best answer I have for you right now, Paul.
Are there potentially other suspects in this case, other than two people currently charged?
The question is if there's potential other suspects. By no means is this case closed. We have a lot of work ahead of us, but at this time we have no indication that there's any other party involved.
Lieutenant, I think you kind of answered this, but I just want to make it absolutely clear. The question, is there any indication from the state of the victim's body that the baby had been delivered by a cesarean section?
The question was whether or not the baby was delivered via C-section. At this point, I can't comment on that. Savannah is down in St. Paul at this time awaiting an autopsy.
The question was, could I clarify what might cause there to be federal jurisdiction in this case? My answer to that is it's premature for me to go into that right now. To tell you that might be speculating as to what might happen here, and I don't wish to do that until we have information that would make it appropriate to do that. As I earlier indicated, I've been and law enforcement has as well, been in close contact with federal authorities about it. For me, the U.S. Attorney, I am familiar with some of his thoughts about the jurisdictional issues, but I am not an expert in federal jurisdiction, and he is. At this point, I think it unlikely that he will provide a whole lot of information about that, but I communicated with him this morning on the matter as well as over the course of the last several days. So I think we just need to await facts. We think it's completely appropriate to move forward right now in Cass County in state court. If further information comes to us that leads us to believe that there are other jurisdictions that may be appropriate, then I will sit down with those jurisdictions, we'll figure out what that means, and if there is anything we should do about it. Right now, we think we've got appropriate charges that we'll move forward on starting this afternoon.
Lieutenant,
Yes, sir.
been able to actually confirm the parentage of the baby yet?
No, we have not. We've been working with the State Crime Lab to determine that. That's a lengthy process. Repeat the question, please. The question was, is there physical evidence to support the arrest and charging of the two suspects? I'm not going to get into the details of the case. I'm sorry. Question. Ramsey County is who does, the question was why Savannah was brought to Ramsey County for autopsy. Ramsey County is who does the autopsies for any Minnesota law enforcement jurisdiction. Question?
Can you shed any light to why Cruz, after allegedly doing this crime, involved in to go back to her apartment in the first place?
Question was if I have any knowledge on why Brooke Cruz would return to her apartment after this crime, and I have no firsthand knowledge on that, so I can't answer that.
Lieutenant, there was apparently in the court files, there was apparently an outstanding arrest warrant for Mr. Cohen. He was arrested and then released on the 23rd. Was that part of this investigation? Is that how you pick him up, or was that just happenstance, or did you just need to bring him in and have a meeting to talk to him?
William was arrested on an outstanding warrant and brought to the Cass County Jail for that Tuesday night. And patrol was aware that he had an outstanding warrant, and they are the ones that arrested him for that.
I believe it was said earlier, that there were 3 searches of the whole apartment.
The question was if there was 3 searches of William and Brooke's apartment, and yes, our patrol officers searched that apartment for Savannah twice on Saturday after the report, and then a detective also searched for Savannah on Sunday. No indication of Savannah or a child in those 3 searches. The question was there any indication someone was trying to conceal the crime scene at that point? No. Yes, the answer is if they were cooperative, I'd say yes, they were. Question was if they've been cooperative since they've been in custody, and I'm not going to elaborate on that. I'll have time for about 2 more questions.
The fire department has been searching the stretch of the river for 2 days prior to last night. Is there any indication or any specific reason that your department asked them to search the river?
Question was basically a reason for the fire department searching the Red River this past week. Again, because of the investigation, I'm not going to get into that with you, Drew. One more question.
Do you have any estimate of when the autopsy results will be back?
Officially, the question was when will autopsy results be back? Typically, official reports are weeks, if not months later. We should have preliminary information for investigative reasons later today or later tomorrow. Thank you. I'll turn it back over to the chief. Question was agencies working on it. I'm going to probably forget a few, but there's a couple federal agencies we've been working with. We've been working with West Fargo PD, Moorhead PD, Cass, Clay County, several other jurisdictions that have been helping us out with this investigation. So, correct, BCI and BCA. Thank you, guys. Chief?
Birch Burdick, one last thing. For a matter of perspective, you have seen Lieutenant Nelson here be rather circumspect about the facts he's sharing with you. I need you to understand that there's a reason for that, which is under the professional rules for prosecutors, we need to be very careful about sharing information with the public other than those things that are required to bring the case to the courtroom, and extrajudicial statements are discouraged. We pass that along to the police department as well because that's our responsibility to do it. So there are things that I know that they would like to share with you and things that you would like to know. That's understandable, but there are reasons why we are careful about what we share at this point, and I wanted you to understand that. Thank you. Yes. The question is, do we expect the suspects to be in court? The answer is yes. I expect them to appear probably, although I'm not positive about this, so they'll probably appear on TV, on interactive video, and it will be a first appearance, and the things I mentioned earlier, what will happen then. They will be appointed lawyers if it's appropriate. They will be informed of their charges. Bail will be set. A schedule will be set for further proceedings.
Well, right now the BCA is here. They've already started doing the investigation, but they have a whole lot of places they have to go to because we're going to have to do with each river both ways, and it's going to probably take a while. I don't know. They don't tell the sheriff. They just tell me to do my job, so.
How many people do you have working in this roughly from your department?
Oh, we probably have all our investigators, like 4 of them. The BC, I think, had 6, but I think they've told me that they're going to have a lot more coming just because of all the area they do have to search.
We get address for that.
That thing hasn't had an address for years. It's right after you come from North Dakota on 26 in Minnesota. Yes. Yes, they are in Cass County.
There, I'll go back to Farmstead again. I mean, we've all seen farmsteads, I guess, but can you describe it a little bit? Is there a multi-family farmhouse? Is there a barn? Any idea?
There is an old abandoned house there, there's barns there, there's other buildings there. And just another side note, that's where I hunt my deer. Yes. And he's, ooh, not, I have no idea.
A while.
Yes. 20, 30 maybe? Like I say, what we know were from that team that was searching, that when they went to the house, they saw some things that they thought was very, very suspicious. And that's what brought us there and now the BCA there. Pardon? Oh yeah, he's very helpful. He signed it over to us, so.
Well, as you can see, this has become a complex investigation that now involves more than just one jurisdiction. And we're very fortunate to have partnerships throughout this region where we're all able to work well together, and we're grateful for that. Thank you, Sheriff Berquist, for coming over, and to State's Attorney Birch Burdick for coming over too. We're going to close the press conference at this point. Lieutenant Nelson will remain if you want to ask him more questions individually, but thank you very much for coming today.